I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, March the 29th, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics. Manage your feedlot operation anywhere, anytime with Performance Beef. For more information, go to performancelivestockanalytics.com. Okay, it's your turn. Now, we've been talking about getting something done here to save this industry. And for over 2 years here, I have been preaching that we need to set minimum mandated negotiation levels for our fat cattle trade. It's the only way we're going to preserve any kind of negotiation, and it's the only way we're going to preserve this industry. We can watch it go by the wayside like the hogs and the chickens have done, or we can get something done. We've got an opportunity to do it right here. The Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act has been introduced by Senators Grassley, Fisher, Tester, and Wyden. So it's got both Democrats and Republicans on there. It's ready to get something done. So what have you guys got to do? You have to let your lawmakers, and specifically your House representatives. We've got the Senate done, and I told you they wouldn't drop this bill unless they thought that they had enough support behind it to get it passed. We believe we have the support to get it passed, but some of your lawmakers are going to get some pressure not to approve this bill, not to vote for it. And so they've got to continue to get more grassroots people like you guys to call in, and don't think it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. And to call in and say that you want this, you support this bill, and you would like to see it get passed. It makes a difference. I don't care if you're on a recording. I don't care if you talk to a staffer or a secretary or however you get your voice in there. It gets documented and it gets to that person. So we've got to get something done here. What have they done to it since we talked about the last time? They've redefined some of the definitions. Things like as far as mandatory price reporting goes they've kind of redefined approved pricing mechanisms. They went in and redefined fed cattle, mandatory minimums, and of course that is a dirty word whenever you're talking about NCBA. Negotiated grid purchases, as far as reporting definitions, they've redefined cattle that are committed, formula marketing agreement, a packer, a covered packer, a covered contract, steers, heifers, just done some redefining in there. And they've run all this by the lawyers because they're going to challenge this. The packers are going to challenge this deal. But it's being done, and we're in an atmosphere right now where we can get this done. We can absolutely get it done. We've just got to have some support and not be fighting against ourselves. Now, this is done in spite of NCBA's anti-mandatory policy that they passed down in Houston there a couple of months ago. But what are the things that are in it? And besides the mandatory minimums, but also included in there is a 14-day slaughter reporting period. So your packers would have to report the number of cattle that they have scheduled for delivery to their plant within the next 14 days. That would be pretty good information, especially if you were looking to negotiate. And getting this bill passed and these minimum mandates set is the only way that we're going to preserve negotiation. So we're going to also include faster carcass weight reporting. We don't know how much we can do that, but it could be quicker than 2 weeks. We're going to force mandatory reporting of cutout yields, which would be important for the industry. It includes a cattle contract library. that's included in there. And then the biggest part of it, and it's the part that bristles up people that cater to the packers, including your corporate feeders that are in bed with them, that have the formula contracts and the formula arrangements, and all of NCBA's big leaders there. But it sets a mandate for minimum negotiated trade. The way they're going to do it is it's going to allow the Secretary of USDA to pick out 5 to 7 regions there, and then they're going to go in there and set those minimums. Are the minimums going to be real stringent? No. We can't get that, guys. So we're going to take, basically an average of what they've had the last couple of years, and in the places where we have pretty good negotiated trade, like Iowa and Nebraska, it's going to hold them at that point. And then your places like Kansas and Texas, going to try to increase that by 50% initially, but it's going to be plant by plant, which I've told you guys 1,000 times. That makes so much difference, because it's not going to be per region, it's going to be per plant within that region. Now you see some people saying, well, some of these plants are not included in there. If they don't fall under the threshold of mandatory price reporting, no, they're not, because we don't have any way to keep tabs on it. We've known that. So, and guys are saying, well, we want 50-14. You're not going to get 50-14. I promise you, you will not get 50-14. So you might as well forget about that. So do you want something or do you want nothing? If you come in from working all day and you ask your wife what you're having for supper, and she says meatloaf, and you said, no, I don't want meatloaf, I wanted steaks, and she throws the meatloaf in the trash, and she says, well, then you get nothing. Would you have rather had the meatloaf? Yes, most of us would have rather had the meatloaf. So, you can't get 50-14. I mean, they're screaming and having a conniption fit over the levels that we're trying to get established with this bill right here. And so there's no way you're going to get 50-14. Yeah, I'd love to have 50-14 too. I wanted 30, and that was too aggressive. Now, likely it is going to be 30, kind of on the average in the 5-area feeding region, but it's going to set something. Texas A&M research has already said that the Texas feedlot areas, which includes western Oklahoma and eastern New Mexico, that the Texas feedlot area is going to be net zero in less than 4 years if we don't do something, if we don't get something changed here. So then you have zero price discovery in Texas. Well, we know by other research that Texas makes the most difference. So, if we have some negotiated trade in Texas, that helps, your whole 5-area feeding region and your whole nation get some price discovery there. But no, for you RCAFers, and I appreciate and I respect you guys' excitement and your passion for this industry. We cannot get 50-14. You'll never get it, I promise. You're not going to get country of origin labeling the way that it was in 2014 either. Now, you might get some truth in labeling that tells you whether the product is or isn't a product of the USA, the way that all of us would define it. But you're not going to get the same country of origin labeling where the label includes every country that may have been a product of. You're not going to get it that way. It's not going to happen. So, do you want something or do you want nothing? And you just got to be realistic about what we can get. We've never gotten anything. This is our only opportunity to get something. Do you want to take it, or do you want to be unrealistic about what we can get and keep fighting for things that you have no chance at? I'm a single guy. Whenever I go out looking for my, prospective next X, I know that I'm not going to get the 30-year-old, aerobics instructor that's got the dad with all the ranches full of pump jacks. Not going to happen, I'm I'm a 50-year-old opinionated asshole with a dad bod. Not going to get it. I've got to settle for something a little bit agier, a little bit plainer, a little bit fleshier. I'm okay with that. I understand that. And I'm realistic about it. We've got to be realistic about things, guys. You guys are in one of the toughest industries that there is, even within agriculture, and you're realistic about your return on your investment. Why can't you be realistic about this? So we've got to get behind this. This is our one and only opportunity to get something that could preserve this industry for your kids and your grandkids. It's the only opportunity we'll get. It'll never be this ripe. Right after the pandemic, got an administration that's trying to blame inflation on something. They're scrambling for anything. Well, we know that the packers are involved in gouging and have been enjoying record profits for the last few years. Exorbitant record profits. Here's an opportunity for them to get that done. We can do this. We've got a bipartisan bill here. We can do this. We've got the Senate. We need the House. So what can you do? You can call 202-225-3121. That's the switchboard for the House. You can get in touch with your representative. Tell them that you support this bill. Tell them where you live, what you do for a living. You're active in the cattle business, and you think it's a good deal, and you want them to support it. It's the only time we'll ever get it. If we don't get this, forget it. I tell you what, we'll never have another opportunity like this to get this. But I just hope you guys will get behind it. Let's talk about your board. To open the week on Monday, which it wasn't that bad after a bearish cattle and feed report. But I told you guys on the last visit that now everybody is seriously looking at the fact that we are going to be running really short of available cattle coming down the pike. Feeder cattle, not fats. We've got not a wall, but we've got a bigger number of fats coming here starting in early summer through the meat of the summer, when we have a hard time with our fat cattle market anyway. But it's not going to be in August. It's going to be in June, guys, because those cattle have been on feed. They haven't been turned out. There was no place to turn them out. We had shorter numbers of calf crop anyway, and then the drought, there was no place to turn cattle out. They went on feed, and that's one reason we have all record numbers of cattle on feed. But there's not a lot of cattle behind them, guys. And so I think that is starting to become glaring as our receipts are really falling off on our cattle auctions. Guys that haven't bought cattle to turn out on grass are going to have a hard time finding them. They're calling around looking for cattle, and it's apparent that fundamental is showing its face, because we didn't see your board down really hard after a pretty bearish cattle and feed report. We think, gosh, if that many of 3% more cattle were placed than a year ago, even than we thought it was going to be a 106.3 and it was 109.3, then we're really short of cattle. And guys are still going to want the cattle. So you look at April live cattle futures down just 17 cents at 140.30. June was down 60 at 136.77. Now that's a discount to where we're trading right now. They're fully aware that we've got heavier numbers of market-ready cattle coming down the pike. But you look on your back months, and they were down 20 cents to down 82, but not terrible after a pretty bearish cattle and feed report. March feeder cattle down 32 cents. Of course, they're trying to kind of get in line where you're getting here towards the end of March, and we've got to line up with your cash feeder cattle index. They're likely that March contract is likely going to be down a lot harder here, the last day or two here of the month, because it's got to line up. April feeder cattle down 75 cents at 160.82. Your back months on feeder cattle down 12 to just down 27 cents. Corn and beans were off. Beans hard. Corn was down 5.5 cents on Monday at 748.5. Beans down 46 cents at 16.64 1/4. and your Kansas City hard red winter wheat, it's looking like that this deal in Ukraine might start finding an end point, or at least start easing up a little bit. They might at least let people go out and tend to their crops. But Kansas City hard red winter wheat down 40.25 cents at 1070.5. Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fat cattle trade in your 5-area feeding region, 77,100 compared to 60,500 last week and 84,600 the same week a year ago. Your live steers and heifers in the 5-area feeding region sold from 135 to 142. And you think, well, gosh, that's a wide range. 135 sounds terrible. That 135 is not real. Only 67 head of fat cattle sold below 137, direct basis in your 5-area feeding region. So why we have to use that 135, I don't know. On the other side, there was 6,400 that sold at 142. So it was mostly 138 to 142. Your weighted average on live steers was 138.95. That was actually up 85 cents because they started pushing higher up in the northeastern part of your 5-area feeding region as they were getting kind of short of cattle, those plants up that way. Dress sales steers and heifers 220 to 225. That was basically steady, but your weighted average was down 22 cents from a week ago at 221.46, but that's not terrible. Nationwide, we sold 91,200 head negotiated cash compared to about 75,000 the previous week, 99,700 the same week a year ago. Of your negotiated sales nationwide, only 19% sold for the 2 to 4 week delivery. So they're not setting us up, guys. We still got an opportunity to gain some market position between now and in May, when we're going to start seeing those early arrivals of increased fat cattle numbers show up. So April could be a month that we could get some market position back. But 91,200 negotiated, 40,200 negotiated grid, 269,800 head of formula. You think we don't need some more negotiation to kind of balance things out? We need to put mandates on them. Call somebody and shake things up in D.C. You don't have to get out and really do anything. You can just call in and say, I support the bill. That's all you got to do. That call makes a difference, people. Box beef cutout values were higher. Select was a lot higher. Choice cuts on Monday, 263.87 up $1.23. Select up 418 at 256.32. Talk about what else is going on. Beaver County Stockyards on the eastern side of the Oklahoma Panhandle, where it's really, really dry. Of course, it's dry all over the plains still. But they have their sales on Tuesday. Their receipts have kind of fallen off now. There was very few cattle turned out on wheat, and then we've sold all of those. And so they're running on a little bit lighter receipts, but it's a good place to market your cattle. They've got an active market. They've got several feedlots that are there every week and bidding on cattle. A lot of backgrounders in that area are buying calves and stocker type cattle, and the ownership there, they support the market. So don't forget Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. Talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index based on an 800-pound steer on cash basis up through the middle 12 states, 154.70. That was 10 cents lower than the end of last week. And your real-time index brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon. I'm going to give you a quote out of Montgomery Stockyards board sale. Now they have board sales, and especially this time of year, at Montgomery Stockyards in Montgomery, Alabama. These are country cattle, but they're selling them through the auction market there to get competition and some competitive bidding and price discovery there. But the agents there with the Montgomery Stockyards go out and solicit and find these cattle and they video them. It's basically a video sale, but in the eastern side they always call them board sales. They used to just sell them off of a sheet of paper, but they had a smaller board sale on Monday. So 5 loads out of northern Florida they're to weigh 775 to 790 middle to late April. They bring 157.50 to 158. guys, that's a big time price. And they weren't, you know, they were predominantly black, but they were crossed up a little bit. Cattle not going to have a lot of hair. They don't need hair to feed this time of year, you know, even in your 5-area feeding region, because they're all going to be fed during the summer months when it's going to be hot, and they'll actually feed better than some of your native cattle in the central part of the country, because they'll have too much hair. But those board sales on Montgomery Stockyards going forward are all going to be on dvauction.com. So you guys that can't see what's going on, but you're interested in those cattle, you'll be able to go on to DV, watch the videos, then you can call in or bid online, including their big sale that they have. It's scheduled for April the 25th, Montgomery Stockyards board sale. It's a big one. They'll have 100+ loads of cattle on there, and there won't be a lot of cattle anywhere else, so that'll be a good place to find some there. So look forward to that. Big sales on Monday. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 8,700 head, and it was sharply higher, guys. And right after a bearish cattle and feed report, never happens. Feeder steers $2 to $4 higher. Feeder heifers $1 to $3 higher. Stocker cattle $5 to $9 higher. You can't find them, guys. There's none out there. Steer calves $7 to $10 higher, with spots $15 higher on steer calves. Heifer calves $9 to $10 higher, spots $14 higher on heifer calves. Really good sale. Snappy sale in Oklahoma City, because we're just short in numbers. All of a sudden it's getting glaringly evident. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,800 head there. The market was steady to $6 higher. Everybody around there thinking and talking about Bob Foote and the recent passing of him. He was a big player there at Joplin and bought cattle out of there every week. How about Russell, Iowa, 3,300 head. It was a hard call on that trend because they didn't have a sale for 2 weeks, but looked pretty peppy. You look at your automated market report from Cattle Market Central with DV Auction. Look at your best tested weights. 271 head of 5-weight steers, average 550 at 191.62 in Russell, Iowa. 232 head of your 6-weight steers, average 640 at 172.39. 569 head of 7-weight steer calves, Russell, Iowa, with average 753 at 161.88 on your weighted average. How about some heifers? 349 head of 6-weight heifer calves, average 646, weighted average price 156.84. 323 head of 7-weight heifer calves, average 748, the weighted average price of 142.39. Got some individual quotes for you. How about Sylvan Grove, Kansas? Sylvan Sales Commission there. A little market with the big prices. 63 head, 787 pound steers, bringing 163.35. Big time quote out of Sylvan, Kansas there, Sylvan Grove, Kansas. How about some other places? Russell, Iowa there that we talked about on that report. Sold 63 head, 827 pound steers at 163.25, with farmer feeders bidding right there. But the best quote that I saw anywhere, and they had several impressive quotes, including your Rowgrow top quote for the day, but Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota, they sold big 10.25 weight steers for 143.60. I don't know where they're going to get the cost of gains down on those. But also this quote that I thought was the biggest and best: 160 head, 674 pound steers in Worthing, South Dakota, bring 185.25. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.